Hello, everyone.
Hey.
Good morning. Good
Hi,
afternoon.
everyone.
Wim, I think congratulations are in order. I think I missed the last TSC, but I understood that you got the chair for the SIG, so congrats.
Thank you very much. I think, yeah, I hope I will, do as good as Tal and hopefully better or more. I don't know. Yeah, we'll see.
The reality is you've convinced people, so I think we're on good hands.
We'll see. Yeah, I'll try to do my best.
Yeah, congratulations, Wim, on your first official
Yes.
meeting
Thank you.
at the what I should say, powerful / responsible seat.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
John should be back as well. I had a discussion with him yesterday. So
Yeah, he'll be right in.
yeah, John.
Yeah.
We also have to thank Tal, right, for all his work. So
You're most welcome. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Tal. Yeah.
but we probably have to do it officially, I guess. But, or a bit more official.
Well, officially, we're all contributors. You know, it's
yeah, that's true. We are one happy family. So
yeah. The chair. It's like politicians are public servants. You know, it's like Wim, you're our servant. You're supposed to work for us here.
Indeed.
I'm not sure what you're talking about, but if it's open source work, I agree. I can't tell you how many nasty people who come on issues and they're like, this should work this way, and do it for me. And it's like, what are you talking about? It's open source. Volunteer, do it yourself.
Oh, I was talking about chairs. You and Wim being our servants, and here.
Oh, yeah.
I was talking about the issue. I was thinking about the issue in my house. I can't fix my microwave.
So we should help. We should help you.
Yeah, I think everything. We're a happy family. We should be helping out each other on everything.
For an open source house?
It's an open source house. Yeah, actually, I don't mind doing it open source.
Yeah, welcome back, John.
Thank you. Let's get started. I want to be respectful of everyone's time here. Yeah, sorry I was out for so long. I was on vacation, then I got COVID. And it was not, I got it a year ago and it was nothing. And this time it was not nothing. It was a little rough, but I'm back feeling better. So let me share my
Glad you're
screen.
feeling better. Yeah.
And I know there was
So you went on mute, John, if you're speaking.
Yeah, it's because when you share with Zoom, it shares the. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, so logistics. So this, as many of you know, we've been using LFX, which is a Linux Foundation tool, profile.dev. You can see your meetings, and theoretically, it's all beautiful and works wonderfully, but it hasn't. A lot of us don't get the invitations. I've missed meetings. I know other people have missed meetings. So Linux Foundation says it's going to be a couple of months before they can sort out all the bugs. So we have. They've gotten us a Linux Zoom Pro account. I know Wim tried to log in though, and there was a one-time password. So we haven't, it's not 100% sure, but most likely for the next few months at least, we are going to be switching to just a Zoom Pro account rather than the LFX tool. This means the meeting won't show up in that tool anymore, but hopefully it means that we will have fewer logistical challenges. So there'll be emails going out about this, but I just wanted to give people a heads up that that's going on. I'm sorry for all the difficulties we've had since really the inception of the project with various meeting tools. Hopefully we can get that straightened out. But like I said, LFX, the Linux Foundation platform for managing these things, has some bugs they're working out. It's going to be a couple months, so we're going to switch to something lower tech, I think, for a little while. Other than that, I think, I definitely want to, I'm looking at the agenda. I think that we need to talk about the sub-projects, so Tal's going to talk about that. And Alexis, I looked at this looks really interesting. I think, though, that I want to switch the order here a little bit, because I really think we need to start talking about R1, where I know Tal put it on the agenda for next week, but I think getting going on it a little sooner is important. So I hope we have time to talk about this, but this looks more like some of the things that are a little more future looking. I think for R1, we have a workshop instance, and the plan is to iterate on that given the short time frame we have. So anyway, with that, I'll let Tal discuss the sub-projects.
Sure. So my idea was, you probably saw that in the TC meeting, or some of you, that Condom suggested that to move faster, we should reinstate the original plan of having 4 SIGs. For now, the TSC technical document lets our SIG create, that's kind of up to us, and we can set up meetings for it and the structure for it. So, yeah, sorry, somebody saying something?
You're breaking up. I don't know if it's just for me or if it's for everyone.
Something. Does it sound clear right now?
Yeah, Tal. Yeah.
Okay. So interrupt me if it's unclear. So as you can see on the screen right now, after some thinking and brainstorming, internally, we thought maybe a good idea would be to create some sort of integration sub-project. So a lot of the conversations we've been having in the last month or two have been almost like side conversations, right? Discussing exactly the meta model. Even Alexis' presentation right now is about, considering, well, how are we conceptualizing the idea of integrating vendor-specific implementations into the main Nefio platform, right? So the idea is, let's put that as a sub-project, right? So where we can exactly talk about all these things, where we can think about an operator SDK or whatever kind of SDK for Nefio there, and keep the main group really focused on automation, right? And keeping the Nefio flow itself working as a core. So it's kind of like core plus integration, if that makes sense. And I don't know, like the scope will evolve, I imagine, as we start working towards R1, and it might have some sort of natural idea of what is the scope of each. And when we decide eventually to really create a separate SIG, it might be that this sub-project will become that other SIG, or maybe we can rename both of the new SIGs into something else. But anyway, this is the best I could come up with for now, just to keep us moving forward, if that makes sense. Any feedback?
I think it's Alexis has his hand up first, I think.
Yes, thanks, Wim. The question I have is the following. Do we foresee a different crowd to join that other sub-project? If not, should we just intensify the occurrence at which we meet for that SIG? Given we don't know what is the clear delineation between that sub-project and other sub-project that we might create within the SIG.
Maybe we should have, if I can, a bit put some perspective of it as a co-chair. So I think if I look to it, I think we have to probably divide and conquer, right? Which is what I think is what you're saying. But I have the feeling that we first have to put our plan for release 1 on the rails. And once we have that, we can probably do more divide and conquer. Does that make sense? I mean,
Yeah.
Because if you, at the moment, I don't think we have a clear plan on how we get to release 1. And I have the feeling that we have to iron that first out. I hope that we can do it in the next couple of weeks. And then from the moment we have that solid, we can basically fan out to other initiatives that are then going to the stages beyond release 1 and stuff like that. Does that not make more sense? Because otherwise otherwise what you will see is that you will have lots of parallel discussions, but our main goal should be to deliver release 1 as a first step. And I'm not saying that this should take months, but this should be within, let's say, maybe 2 or 3 weeks. Let's say by the end of February, we should probably have enough meat, or our plan for release 1 should be solid, and we are executing. And in the meantime, we can have people go in parallel. I would be more inclined to do something like that rather than now already say, okay, we need to do these kind of subgroups, but we don't have our bases covered yet.
So thanks, Wim. Sorry, I'm gonna speak out of order, John, just because I totally agree with you. That's exactly what I wanted to say. So you said what I wanted to say, my opinion about this. That's why I went out of order, Jin. Sorry about that. So I concur. I think it's a bit premature for us to, at this point of time, we need to be, the 3.6, I think we need to be aligned in terms of what user stories we are bringing and how we are implementing it, how we are releasing it. I think that is the main crux of what the release 1 should be. I think given the time span that we have, I think we should all spend our energy in that, is what I feel. And once we achieve that, then probably once we have a better picture about how we are evolving, I think at that point of time, what Tal is proposing makes total sense.
I think we have Jean-Marie next, I think. Sorry.
Yes. So I pretty much agree with what Wim have been saying. The thing that I would like to add is that the type of discussions that are driven and that are on what you call the meta model, which is also touching on the actors, will have deep implications in how automation is realized. So before we have a reasonable view of what they are, I don't see how it would be possible to start parallel activities without risking that they are diverging and that they are very difficult to be put together.
So it sounds like people are saying we should not create a sub-project yet until we actually have a plan.
That would be, that's what I or my personal opinion is, but I think it's up to the group to decide, right? I don't know, John.
I was just gonna,
sorry.
I was just gonna say the same thing Tal just said, like summarize it. Like it sounds like the feedback from the group is that it's premature, that we need a little bit more definition around our execution plan, and then we'll be able to more clearly draw those lines. I think that in my opinion, I mean, I think that's probably fine if that's what how people think it, because I think it would be the same people. We have we're having a weekly meeting on this. We have meetings for the other groups. It's a lot of the same people. I have lots of time to devote to this project. I don't know about everybody else on the call. I think that over the next 2 weeks, I would hope in the next 2 weeks, before the end of February, maybe by mid-February, we would have a pretty clear execution plan. And yeah, I guess on the chat, I'll just stop there and reiterate. I'm hearing the same thing Tal's hearing, but I think Vish was next.
Yeah, so I mean, I agree with all the things. Prioritizing R1 is probably the right thing, in general, having a firm plan. Is there a process for creating a subgroup, like actually some template or some things that somebody like Tal can actually go ahead and put in and show the urgency or like show the relevance to R1, or maybe like,
I think it's just there's no process. The charter just says, unless Tal, you looked at it more closely, but like we get to decide the process. It's just up to the chairs really of
Okay.
the SIG.
Yeah.
Cool.
So if I may just, I think what Canon was said in the TSC, it's up to us, John, to organize it right at the moment. So it's up to our group here to organize it. So we could do whatever we want. Either we say we meet, so we could say, okay, who would lead such a subgroup and what is the topic, and we could potentially have that fan out independently, and then we have to make a structure by ourselves on how we would organize that.
Okay.
I think that's what Canon said at the moment. So, but there is no agreed process at the moment. There was just, I think Canon basically was saying, okay, it's up to the SIG2 team to actually figure that out.
Okay.
That's
Can we
what
note a point
I
on that?
understood.
That way, it becomes very, I know we are still fledgling group on this. This is the first time we are discussing this. At least can we actually have some sort of a note to like think, hey, can we have 1 or 2 steps about how people can actually go off and do this? It'll be good to.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Tal, I interrupted you. Maybe you should, I don't know whether you wanted to respond.
Yeah, I know there are more hands, but I feel like I should probably respond because my proposal here. But I'll give I sent a link to, you can see the paragraph in the TSC technical document. It's really up to us. We can do whatever we want. So I guess it's the decision of the chairs with the feedback from the community. But I want to add another perspective here. Yeah, I understand the mission isn't very clear. First of all, I did not intend it just to be a place where we talk about stuff. It's really about working on things for R1. The other perspective here, we have a lot of people in Google who are dedicated to Nafio and work. And it's really about, dividing the labor too as well. So very soon, right, we want to bring a lot of effort to actually work on things. So this is more about creating a container already for a lot of this work ahead of time. So the structure is there to hit the ground running. I know we don't have an actual plan quite yet. We don't have a list of components, but there'll probably be a bunch of components, right? That they're interested in different things from managing Multis networks to integration with VNFs to working on configuration management, right, at the initial level. So there are a lot of topics. It's just very hard to see how even 1 hour a week talking, just doing a stand-up meeting would be very long. So yeah, this might be premature, but I think my point here is to set the structure already there so we can really hit the ground rolling with R1. But if the community feels like they'd rather wait until we have a plan first, that makes sense to me as well.
So Tal, I'd like to say I'm interested in what you're going to do, but at this point of time, I feel more comfortable if we had a release 1 planning. I would like to go with the other consensus, which is actually baked, and we are trying to execute. And then maybe midway, when we know that we have confidence, at that point of time, because I want to be involved, right? Everybody else would want to be involved too, is how I feel. We are all probably greedy here. We want to contribute everywhere. So I would say if it could actually be, seems like you're also agreeing the fact that R1 planning is probably more priority and trying to execute on that.
I'm not exactly agreeing. I think these things can be done in parallel. I mean, this is more setting up a structure rather than giving it a direct mission already.
So I'm going to jump the line and just say, like, for example, in Kubernetes, we have subprojects in the SIGs. Subprojects own components. So in that sense, in fact, in Kubernetes, SIGs don't directly own components. There's always a subproject, but it's kind of, that's kind of pedantic. But we may want to consider a structure like that, where as we figure out what components we create subprojects that own those components. And the other piece that I don't know from SIG release yet, how we're doing it in regard to that is sort of how approval authority on those different components works. So usually you have owners files within the Git repository, and that allows, so a subproject owner or an owner of a particular directory, even within the code, to approve things without it having to always come to the couple of committers. It's a more refined set of permissions, and so I think that it makes sense maybe just to have the idea that we're going to have a subproject or more than one subproject, and we're going to sort out the components and ownership so that basically it's to it's to distribute decision-making a little bit more effectively rather than it being too centralized. And so I don't know who was next in line. I can't tell with Zoom what the order of the hand raises are.
I think it was Ravi, but he went away.
I think he seems to, yeah, Ravi's hand seems to be up for a very long time.
Yeah, Ravi was first, and then I think.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I kind of clicked and my hand lowered. No. So for me, it's like when you talk about R1, since it's so application specific, it's 5G core and the UPF and SMF and multi-cluster deployments and all. And what attracted me was Pim's kind of that one of the action items on gaps for R1 use cases. From what I understood from last meeting, what Kaushik said is that there is some other document being worked, which is, I don't know if it's been shared or something, but there's supposed to be something that would elaborate on those use cases and would put a lot more details around the requirements of each one of those use case stories, I guess. So is that the starting point, or what is that we can do based on what the R1 document, the state at which it is right now, kind of to kind of in the context of this group, what is the gaps? What did you have in mind here?
So if I may respond, so what I did, I mean, we can present it because I have a bit of a presentation. So what I did is the following, right? So if you look to SIG 1, they basically defined 4 use cases for R1, right? And that's what we are supposed to deliver as far as I understand. So what I did is I said, okay, we have the POC that we did, and we have the 4 use cases. And then what I said is, okay, what are the potential things that we have to do and discuss to figure out how we get in release 1 to these 4 use cases with all the things that are involved. That's basically what I did. I'm not saying it's complete. I'm basically saying here are, so some of the steps is discuss how we architected and figured it out. So that's basically what I started to do is by myself, look at the 4 use cases, look at what we did in the POC, and based on my knowledge, try to figure out, okay, what are the things that has to happen? And that's kind of where I started from. And that's what I prepared for this meeting to present if we have time. As a starting point, and then we can then we can start saying, okay, these people can sort this out, or we can discuss that, or something like that. Or so that was my goal, to present that a little bit. And probably this is far from complete, but it was a starting point to have a conversation.
Okay, no, that's good. I didn't realize it. I thought it was just, I mean, a kind of an open discussion point. But if you have some material, I would like to see that, because I think we covered a lot of the things during the last few weeks on cluster kind of management aspects, and you mentioned configuration too, in addition to kind of the provisioning of the net function itself. So I think all that will be discussed there. So wait for the presentation. Thank you.
I think you're next.
I'm a little frustrated with this project because I'm going to be really perfectly honest. I'm not working, so I have a lot of time to spend on this. And I feel like we started talking about system components, which to me imply an architecture for 2 months off and on with the holidays and all that. And we're still circling around it, but not diving in. And given the April or May release, I feel like if we keep going, we're not going to make it. I mean, especially given how rushed we were in November for the demo. I have the feeling that we could, unless somebody, maybe the chair, John, or somebody,
So I totally agree, and So I think we need a concrete. So we think we need a concrete execution plan, system architecture diagram. We need to understand the components, and we need to understand what we're building in, by mid-February. That's what I was trying to say before.
Yeah.
And I think that then we need to execute in a similar manner to what we did. And this was all brought up prior to the holidays. I think we kind of when I left, I thought we were kind of in a place where the folks in the community agreed that one, we would look at the gaps of what we did in the workshop against those user stories and see what we need to do, to get that system architecture and system components decisions made. And then 3, begin an execution methodology similar to what we did in the workshop, where we create a GitHub project and we manage it just like you'd manage any other project. We've got a bunch of tasks, we can assign them to different people. We know what's going to be built by whom and what the dependencies are. So I think that's where we need to get. I'd like to be there in 3 weeks. I think we're behind schedule, but I don't know that we can easily get there before that. But the sooner we get there, the better. I think we should have a first cut at something like that for the next meeting. Meaning a system architecture, we can see what the components are, we can discuss, we can commit to, and then we can start the execution. That's my goal. I agree, even getting it, by then is still behind the ball. But realistically, I think that's what we'll be able to accomplish.
Yeah, I agree with you. My concern is are we going to get there, or are we just going to devolve into more discussion about different technology? Not that I haven't learned a lot.
I think we need to just like scope it, that we need to
exactly, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, totally agree.
It might not be perfect, and I think it might not be perfect, but I think we have to get somewhere, and there might be certain things that are not 100% sorted, but at least we have something.
Yeah, because I know I'm preaching to the choir, but Agile, right? The first iterations, we're going to pick a few core components and focus on that, right? We're not going to get the entire architecture down in the first pass in R1. The key ones, yes, but not the entire thing, right? So we're going to have to learn to defer on some of these things. Not that we're trying to be mean to or rejecting any ideas or any technology, but we need to find a core and start working on that.
And we need to scope the things we talk about, like, to the things that are necessary for those specific use cases, because it's an enormous problem we're trying to address, and we need that guiding path, or steel thread, we've called it sometimes in other contexts, like North Star. There's all these terminology. Yeah.
I mean, for example, the roles, the persona, right? It's been 2 weeks and we haven't even agreed on that.
Yeah. So
the roles is a SIG 1. We are SIG 1, so we're
but we should push SIG 1 at this point. We should push them.
Well, I think actually, on what we should do is, you're right. Like, we can't wait for them. Right? We'll never get there if we wait. What we can do is, I know Wim and I were talking the other day. He said that Nokia has done some of those things internally. I know there were some things done in the CNCF working group, the CNF working group that somebody sent out earlier. So we're just going to have to take what we got right now. We have things internally at Google too. So we're just going to take what we got and move forward with those, and then assume that'll be a refinement later if we discover there's 12 other roles we didn't know about. Okay, we'll have to address that in R2. But like, we don't have the luxury of time to wait. So I think that iterate, take where we are and iterate on it and expect it to change is going to be the philosophy.
Yeah, exactly. It's iterative. It's going to change. Refactoring is going to happen.
Yes.
Which is
so if I may, I'll be very transparent. I'm everybody knows I'm new at Google, and we've been really working hard to create an overall architecture, right? But we don't want to put everything out yet until we're really aligned and certain that this can work. I really hope soon to be able to present an overall plan. But I want to throw it back to you, An, and the whole community, right? Google is driving this, funding it at start, but it belongs to all of us. nobody has really come up with a very comprehensive plan for a list of components and everything. We had a few ideas, but we never as a community really managed to get around it as a whole. So as John says, right now we're pushing for R1 with what we have. And this is exactly why I'm proposing the sub-project, right? Because what we have right now is very focused, but it's not very extensible, right? There's not a lot of room for vendors and other providers, if it's Red Hat, if it's the equipment providers, to come in and do anything else. We're focused on free 5GC, and that's what we have, right? We're focused on integration with Porch, and that's what we have. If Red Hat wants to bring something else, if another network vendor wants to bring something else, right now that's, you know, we're not quite there. We're rushing with what we have with R1. So the idea for the sub-project is exactly to create that space where we can add to R1 whatever is possible within scope. Again, I think it's going to be very limited, but whatever we can to allow for integrations with other things, so that the R1 release is not just an iteration of the workshop, but really something closer to the vision that we all have in mind for Nefio.
Agree.
Yeah, nobody. Okay.
One comment.
Let me
This
jump
is,
in.
yeah, I mean, can I? Yeah. So I understand that, but I hope Google, if you have some idea, vision, architecture diagram, some of the, and I think that they should release that to this. This is open source, right? So that's why company see what Google is thinking about it and how to add it, how to help it. Without that, every week just we have a vision, but we are ready to not ready to share them. And who's gonna jumping into drive this? So Google started. I mean, that means you have a vision and you have to share some diagram, architecture, whatever diagram, and then some component. We know the workshop, we know that, but we have some vague idea what's going on. But I don't know about the exact what we are doing for R1. What's the architecture? What's the component interface? What is the extension point? I mean, we know there's some idea, but I like to Google to share whatever, whenever you have it. So that's this open source for, you know, not everything is ready, and that's what's the waiting for that. That's my small input. So.
Okay, I'm gonna jump in. If you want, since I have a lot of time, I'm not focusing on a lot of other things. I'll take the first crack at the system components based on some of the discussions we've had here. I'll present something next Wednesday or even earlier, Monday.
Great, yeah.
I'm gonna put a stake in the sand on the table, whatever the expression. And you know, I have an ego, but I'm totally perfectly fine with having whatever I propose rip apart and rebuild. But I want to start. I want to get going.
So, yeah. I mean, I think we did have some discussions about this back a few months ago, and I put out something that served as sort of some workshop, and I think Nokia put something out too, and Tal did as well. I don't think that I see the comments in the chat. I think that what Tal is talking about as far as the vision isn't really different than things he put out in the past. I mean, it's different in that, like, it's a little bit of an evolution, but the issue is really more like, yeah, internal alignment on, like, we don't want to put something out that we all disagree with, right? Like, so
I understand. That's why I'm volunteering to do this, because I'm not with a company, therefore it's not a stake thing, right? It's just me taking a shot at it and start initiating discussion.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm wrong, but you know, that way buy you guys more time.
Yeah. See, on the way I looked at it at the moment is the following, right? I mean, if you look at our deadline, it's in 2-3 months, basically, right?
Yeah.
Which means that if you want to change all the architectural building block, it's going to be very tough, right? So I started from the following. So the way I looked at it is the following: is we have a POC, okay? There are certain capabilities. We have our use cases. There are gaps. So there are things in there. For example, one of the use cases is we need to control plane gives us indications, and we have to do a scale out action, right? So we need something to give us that information and do something with it, right? So we need to put some building blocks in place to make that happen. Yeah. That's how I looked at what we should do to build our one plan in place. At the moment, if you look to the use cases, there is no request at the moment to say you want to support it for vendor A, B, and C, and D. So I said, okay, let's use 3.5GC packet core. The way you can do extensibility right now with our approach is the UPF deployment CR is our nephew CR, and then if you have a specific vendor that has to accommodate that, he has to build an operator of something that takes that in and uses that data to spin up his own thing, right? That's how it works through today. Is it perfect? No. Is there something? Yes. Are we asked in release in our use cases to do all of that extensibility? And in my view, no. So let's build upon these 4 use cases, put the architecture building blocks in place that we don't have right now, and extend them and add them and make it work. And then we see, okay, for release 2, we probably have a bit more time, and we can basically see, okay, where are the gaps, what we should do better, and then make it better and iterate. And as such, we will get to something that is really flexible at the end of the day. But
I agree.
I don't believe that we have the time at this stage for the current release 1 to do all of that, because we will take a lot of time to put all the architecture building blocks in place.
Yeah, I agree.
So 2 things I want to jump in really. First, the VNF CNF, right? The free 5GC is too minimal, not the nominal components. Fine, we're starting with that. There's another one from 3GPP, you know, that has sample. They have code repository and sample. I haven't looked at it yet. I found out a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna, you know, that's one thing we need to decide. The second thing is the extensibility that you, Vim, and Al have talked about. That's important. So if we just focus on tackle those 2 things with or without free 5GC, but some CNF, and show that we can extend it and support vendor, and also extend it in the sense of scale. I think those are concrete goals that we can work toward for R1, right? And it's also central core to at least my understanding of Nephew. And then beyond that, we can splinter is the wrong word, split into subgroup, or, you know, 2-3 people can go deep dive on whatever next technology we need to look at or concept, right? But we need to put the stake down for 2 or 3 major.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I think, and I tell, I'm just reading the chat, how we can chew and walk gum. I don't think we can walk and chew gum at the same time. I think that was like it. Not right now. Like, we need more concrete progress before we can, you know, yes, we have to keep in mind the future, like kind of like Anne was saying, but like we need to be super tactically focused on delivering R1. You know, I look back at our experience with the workshop, which was awesome. I had a whole bunch of us came together. We really executed well, but it was intense and it was focused, and it was like, I mean, we very short period of time to do that, much shorter even than we have for R1, but it was a much lower scope. So like, in order to do this is going to be like, maybe not a level of intensity, but it's going to be very, very much execution focused. Get done what we can get done now, and iterate on it in the next release. I think it's, you know, that's my opinion. I think that we're losing focus by trying to think too much about extensibility now. I think we do need to think about certain kinds of extensibility because it's core to our mission. So, but like being able to integrate with every, like, well, okay, maybe we should go to Wim's. There's a few more hands, Tal and Ravi, and like maybe we should go. Wim has a presentation to talk about, I think, some of this gap stuff. Like maybe we should. I feel like we're still talking in circles. I think it's clear to everybody. What I'm hearing from the feedback from most of the community, and please somebody raise your hand and tell me I'm wrong if I'm wrong, is that let's really buckle down and focus on R1. Let's iterate on what we've got. And that's what I'm hearing. So, and I'm in agreement with that as well. So with that, I guess Ravi's hand is up.
Yeah, and the only point I was trying to make is, we are already kind of aiming at a low-hanging fruit free 5GC, and there is that big gap between that and what actually happens in the real world. So we should see from extensibility from that perspective. The other point I was trying to make is also, because when Verizon presented, and I asked them this question exactly, where do you see Nephew actually? Where do you place it in the overall stack? And they are not clear as such. So I think that that value proposition should be clear. We should make it show it to them how it can interact with their kind of SMO or service management and orchestration system. So I think we should think from that perspective. How do we plug in this thing and make it valuable for them? Any extensibility should be think R1 and those interfaces northbound, southbound. I think that overall view should be clear as one document that we can put out as a community, along with an implementation, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Agreed. Sorry, I didn't have my hand raised, but in Seattle, I walked David Kinsey, who is the AT&T ORAN rep or lead. I don't know what his former title is. And he talked to John and Vim or Tao in the room. And he's interested in using Nephew from an AT&T perspective to manage some of the workloads south of the IMS, DMS, right? John, if you remember that. So similar to Verizon, maybe we can pull them in and help refine where we fit into the telco, right? But that's not something that we can do as a group. I think that's something like 2 or 3 of us should go off and try to put together something, discussion, take notes and present it back. If that's one thing for R1 documentation, architecture side, instead of, in addition to implementation. Because my other feeling is the more telco we get involved, the better for us, right? Obviously.
Yeah, definitely. And because, we had the presentation Tosca, everything is in Tosca, then they require some kind of mapping from those service requirements into what Nephew will kind of execute and so on. So I think there is that gap that this community is trying to address, trying to understand. And I think, through R1, we should try to even address it so that when they read it, they understand, okay, we have this larger document that says, okay, we have this service orchestration system and then open APIs. That interface has to be kind of at least clearly kind of articulated through R1. At least people should see the value of Nephew through that.
Yeah, no offense to anybody here, but some of us are implementer and some of us are architects, right? And so I hear perspective from both in this discussion today. And if the architects want to focus on what Ravi just said, right? Yeah, please do that. And the implementer can start implementing some of the core pieces. And then we meet often to handshake, correct course. But
No, I'm not asking a segue. I'm just saying that focus on R1, but kind of show the end-to-end view as much as possible. That's all I was trying to say. Because there are so many new things Nephew is bringing to the table. We just want to show that, okay, there are good valid reasons why you would want it as part of your entire orchestration stack. Right?
Yeah. And on the release one, let's also keep in mind it's not only SIG2, right? Also SIG release is there. That means all the 3 SIGs had to work in cohesion. Basically, we had to define the process, define the release process, CI/CD being up, being able to do all the testing. I'm just not talking about the unit testing, but also the system level testing. Whatever we need to do, all those will take time as well. So all this means is probably a narrower scope for R1 is what we should focus and then take it from there. But I agree with you, Ravi. Probably we should give the bigger picture and we should tell the community what is coming and what is our core principles are.
Mhm.
Good
Okay, which
point.
you're next, because which you're next. I think maybe I should start presenting or start kicking off some of these gaps. At least we start thinking, but also I think given time, I'm not sure whether we should not meet a bit more regularly, potentially 2 times a week or something. I don't know whether that's an option for some people, because if we want to succeed, I don't know whether it's an option.
You know, we may want to, maybe we do it as a, I mean, it'll be an open meeting for everybody, but maybe we have it
Yes.
focused on execution. Like, I don't know,
Yeah, we have one focused on really the organization and stuff like that, and one more focused on getting things done. But yeah, they are related sometimes. But yeah.
So I had my
why
hand
don't
raised
we,
if I have. Okay.
we have
Go ahead.
15 minutes left. Vish, if you can be quick, and then we go to Wim's presentation. And
yeah, the quick was that, you know, to Ravi's point, Ravi, if you find that use case is not there, it might be a good point to put it in the for discussion, the R1, you know, for the SIG1 agenda tracker. That way, you know, it gets prioritized for the next release. One, just want to make that suggestion. And two, I think looks like Wim and John, you're going to preempt my question. I was going to ask, like, are we going to actually have planning activity for every meeting that we're going to have on SIG Automation? Can that be the first topic where 10 minutes are spent on the, hey, where are we in planning, you know?
With the focus on the release 1, I think, my
Yes,
proposal would be to basically devote the next couple of meetings to get the plan in place for release 1. And then, yeah, from the moment we have that in place, okay, we have an execution plan, and then we can probably do more stuff in parallel. That would be my proposal.
Okay, yeah, I think looks like you preempted my question. That's
yeah,
what I was going to ask you, like, you know.
And as you know, Vish, in the workshop, we did end up doing near daily scrums. I don't know that we would need to do that in this, but we would have, but we will have, once we have our plan, right, we'll have a clear, and I think you and I talked about this before the holidays, like we'll use a, more standard Kanban agile type of process or whatever you want to call it. But basically what we did in the workshop, which is just a list of tasks, and we'll be able to parallelize them and execute against them. There are things that need to be done in SIG release around, I know the PROW is running now. We need to get certain repositories created. Once we understand what the components are. And I think, we need to get the execution engine running, and then we need to manage it. So Alexi, we use GitHub. GitHub. So GitHub project board is very similar to Jira. Basically, you can manage issues that way. Maybe it's not great, but it's free and it's available. And we used it pretty successfully in the workshop.
So
okay, we only have a little time left, so Wim, jump in.
Can you stop sharing, John? Because I cannot start sharing, it seems. Yeah, thanks. All right. Screen. You see my slides? My screen?
Yes.
Put it in presentation. Yeah. Is it okay like this? Is it okay like this? So what I did is the following. There is basically, as I said, I took what we have, and okay, there's a lot of it. I basically said or looked at the document from SIG1 and looked at the 4 user stories. So the first one is deploy 5G core, which is both UPF, AMF, SMS. Right? I'll come back to here. So second user story is upgrade the user plane capacity and do that in a fully automated way. User story 3 is upgrade the control plane based on the amount of PDU sessions. So we need some pieces in place for that. And use case 4 is upgrade control plane capacity and user plane capacity. So so the focus was more on dependency management here. Okay. Any questions on the use cases? So these are the 4 use cases that SIG1 has assembled for us to basically deliver in release 1. That's the objective as far as I understand. Any questions on that?
Okay,
So
go ahead.
Yes, Bala, you had a.
Yeah,
Okay,
that was too fast. So probably I need to take a look at this slide again. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
can
I
you
mean,
share?
that's so-
Can you share the deck in the chat, maybe, Wim, or in the agenda?
I have. I did in the Slack already. I shared it in the Slack, I think.
Slack. Oh, I'm sorry, I
Or-
meant the meeting chat, but yeah, Slack is fine.
And I put it on the drive as well in the meantime, on our drive. It should be there.
I think
So,
Alexis has his hand up.
Yeah, Alexis, you had your hand up, I think.
Yes, thank you. I know this is not the forum because this is more SIG1, but how confident is SIG1 with us delivering all these 4 use cases? Because it's good to come up with user stories and tell the other SIG, hey, now implement. I think we need to be realistic.
Well,
Yeah, so I think what at the moment we haven't given feedback, so that's part of our problem that we have, right? And that's probably what the TSC also would like to see going forward, is us giving feedback whether we are on a path to achieve that or not, or whether it's impossible and what do we do, and we have to discuss around that. But so far we haven't. So I think today people are still under the impression that it's possible.
Okay, thanks.
But I'm not saying that that's reality, but I'm saying that's the impression I think that.
No, I was
is
asking
there.
for the impression, so that answers the question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Quick question. SIG1 is the TSC or the network architecture SIG?
Network architecture.
Okay, thanks.
Rafi, you have a question?
Yeah, so I've just, what do you mean by saying AMF, SMF is missing, and what is NOK? I'm sorry.
Okay, so now we're going to the details. So what I was trying to say is that if you look to the status of the POC, right? What did we do?
From the POC
UPF
perspective.
runs.
Okay.
Yeah, so I looked at what we are at the POC, right? And then not okay. NOK means not okay, not Nokia. Sorry. So basically, it boots, but it doesn't do anything, and it has a permission denied error, right? Because it doesn't have root privileges. So we have to somehow figure it out. And what I'm saying, AMF and SMF missing is today in our POC there is no AMF and SMF. So so that's probably easy to fix because someone has to build a controller for AMF and SMF. And then the redeploy issue is basically your issues that you raised yesterday so that there are some issues when we redeploy. So that's what for me, if I look to user story 1, it's basically what we did for the POC, except that there is no AMF and there is no SMF. And then what we see is that we are okay to deploy, but yeah, the use case itself is not very clear whether they want updates and stuff like that onto it. But we already know from you, Ravi, that there are some issues at the moment when we try to redeploy what is in place. And I also have seen if you do some updates, left, right, and center, there are some issues. So
yes,
that's what I mean here. Yeah.
Okay, I think one of the things is because I think the use case 1 also is a multi-cluster deployment. I think there is a sense of an edge and a regional cluster, and I guess there are some gaps in what are those considerations from the cluster perspective that will go into the edge. Probably that needs to be captured as well. I mean, we can actually put that picture. There were the pictures there. I mean, that picture is very
so I see at the moment in the POC, we focused on a single edge, but if you look what is happening in the POC, they actually deploy on all the edge clusters. What I haven't done in the Ansible scripts right now, so for me, that is purely an Ansible scripting is, for example, the IPAM is only set up on one cluster actually. So it's just a matter of configuration. So that part, but it's also an item that needs to be sorted out. But I think if you look to the deployment, the packages on each edge cluster are being created and are actually resolved. So, but I don't think in the POC we focus on it because we're only looking at one. But I think they are actually running on the other edge cluster.
Differentiate between because we only had UPF, we ran them everywhere. But we did. Yes. If you go, well, we ran them on the edge clusters, not the regional cluster. But then, if you look at the second use case in the POC, which is the caching DNS, we ran that on all workload clusters, including the regional. So, and in fact, we configure it differently on the regional cluster because the regional cluster scale is different. So, I think that is part of the POC already, but it probably needs refinement.
So in my view here, architecturally, we don't necessarily have to do a lot of changes. So there is some building blocks that we need to add and look at these, let's say, issues and stuff like that. So for me, in user story 1, I don't see major architectural changes. Probably in use case 2 and 3 and 4, it's a different thing. But okay, so I think you have questions.
Yeah. So for now, can we agree that, or I'm asking for agreement, I'm not pushing, that UPF, AMF, SMF are the 3 NF that we're gonna do for R1 in some combination across 1, 2, 3 cluster, whatever. And for the NF, until we have further understanding or prototyping with the 3GPP source code, we're going to use Free5GC for R1 with these explicit statement that we will enlarge it to support other NF going forward. And that should be, I think, doable scope for R1. Beyond that is, no promise.
Agree. Yeah. So that's because I think there was a team during the Christmas break that reached out on the other implementation, and I pointed them how it worked. So if we are in a reasonable shape, I think we could basically see how I already gave them some tips and stuff like that, but then they said, okay, it looked a bit too much for them at the moment. But if we have this thing covered, we could already potentially reach out to some of these people to say, okay, how it would work with them and how it would, we could consume them. But okay, I think it's probably a stretch for us to do that in at least one.
Yeah. Use Free5GC for now with the explicit statement that we will enlarge it. We just don't have enough time or understanding yet for R1.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, I mean, I think that aligns with something Tal said in the comments as well. So I think there's agreement there as well. So we have only 2.5 minutes left. So we're only clearly going to get through user story 1. Like, I think people maybe should go offline and go through Wim's deck and comment on it. And we can chat on Slack. I think that we have, if people's hands are quick, I don't know, Rafi, I think that might be a stale hand.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I'll comment on the deck. I'll give my comments. Thanks.
So Balaji and Vish, if you want to say things, fine, but we only have a little bit of time. Otherwise, if you think you can comment.
John, my quick question is there any way we could negotiate on these user stories with the SIG1, or is it like we have all decided? I know SIG1 proposed this, we all agreed to this at one point.
Great question. So what I would say is that,
because if I look at the upgrade cases, I'm not sure whether is that the sweet spot for release 1.
So there's a few things we're trying to demonstrate with these. So we wanted to get into some of the day 2 story, and we wanted to show one of the things that I think is, well, I don't know, I think it's interesting, is the idea of the interrelationships between different network functions. So that's what the 4th user story is trying to get at, that changes to one capacity or some change in configuration to one network function can imply changes to another network function. So what this is doing is taking our semantic knowledge of the topology, rather than just understanding individual network functions as one-offs. We understand the topology. So that's the goal of that. Now, whether we can achieve it or not is another question. So I think that when we put together our execution plan, we're going to figure out whether how much of this is achievable or what's going to be a stretch, and then we would go back to SIG1 and say this is impossible, or give us more, right? Yeah, as if that's going to happen.
Thanks.
So the quick question that I have, I mean, great, Wim, thanks for the slides, because identifying these gaps is great. And what will also be helpful, I'm thinking you probably already have in your mind, is for each of the stories, we're also going to probably enhance it to say, hey, what is it that we're going to deliver? What will be the one that's coming?
Yeah.
Right?
That was,
that's cool.
that was my plan.
Okay.
because here you see we need to have a discussion on how we are going to do it and what we are going to show. So I think that's probably the first discussion.
Yeah, okay.
And then we put the building blocks in place that we need to achieve that, right? So that was a little bit my idea. I didn't impose anything, but my goal was to have people start to look at it. So if you really want to look at architecture, building blocks, and how to achieve it, so that's basically what I would propose that we focus on. Then we can, because here we have to, I think it would be good for people to see or have maybe we have a tailored discussion on user story 2, John, so that we do one at a time. So basically, if we know that user story 1 is somehow, we know what to do, we go to story 2, flesh this out. Okay, we have a bit of an idea on how to do that. We go to 3, then we go to 4. And then hopefully by then we have our plan in place and we know what we can do and how we achieve that.
Thank you.
I'm just wondering whether we have enough time. Whether we need a bit more meetings to basically.
We should. Sorry, I know we're really short of time.
But we can do that on Slack.
Put the user story in Slack as a separate thread, so we can continue our discussion there, right?
Yeah, let's start on. I got to get out of the room. I'm getting kicked out. Somebody else is waiting for it. Thanks, everybody. Let's continue our discussion on Slack. Good talk. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye.